Yo, this is DJ Ron Nelson, bigging up my boy, DJ Chris Nice. All right, so make sure lock on to Chris Nice and lock on to Limer's Corner, because DJ Ron Nelson said so. Yo.
What's up, y'all? It's your boy, DJ Chris Nice, and you're tuned into Limer's Corner. We at it again. To all my people in Miami that does not know this brother, I'm going to educate you guys today with somebody that was near and dear to my heart from the city of Toronto. That is a legend. And for those of you in Toronto, especially you younger ones, actually for those of you in Canada, this brother here was way before House of Blues, way before Live Nation. This is history right here. And I'm speaking about the legendary Mr. Ron Nelson.
Yeah.
How you doing, Ron?
What's up, Mr. Chris?
Good to see you again. Good to see you again. Good to see you again.
Done now.
This brother was responsible for me on radio. I had a great career in Toronto, and being on radio while I was building my career from college, being on radio helped me basically take it to the moon. And it was this brother here that got me on a station called WBLK. For those of you in Miami, you don't know of that station. In Toronto, you definitely know of that station. But we were pretty much the first Canadians to do a mix show on WBLK back in the 90s. And I credit all that to this brother here. It took me to a whole different level. I'm all about giving people their roses, and this is why I'm here today. So how you been, man?
Where's the rose?
No, you know what? Man, I forgot it in the car. I'll bring it next time.
Okay, the rose is up here in the brain.
So how have you been?
I've been good. I've been, enjoying the stage of my life, and thanks for the love there. I mean, sometimes when we make history, people always say it, and now I've learned it for myself. You don't really know that you're making history. You're doing what you're passionate about. You're doing what you love.
Yeah,
right?
You're in the moment.
That's a common denominator between you and me and the other DJs on the Advanced Remix. We were doing it for the love. We weren't getting paid for it, but nobody from Canada had ever had a radio slot on the greatest radio station that urban music stood for when you're in Toronto. And that's the advantage of being in Toronto. We were so close to Buffalo. that radio station would come in clearly at 93.7. So WBLK was making lots of money for our Canadian market.
Lots of money.
And every nightclub, California Dream, every nightclub had to advertise in WBLK.
Yep.
You know how it was, right?
Yep.
And music was very nice at this time as well, Still transitional, but WBLK was a real black radio station, okay? And Flow came along at 93.5. And technically, 93.5 is so close to 93.7 that once Flow landed, WBLK died as far as that monopoly is concerned, because we had what was supposed to be our own black radio station, but it never became black, really. It was still gray at this point in time. Definitely not black. The whole American identity with their own culture and promoting, their own movements is different than Canada, where it's a place where really, we still have no loyalty and we still don't really believe in ourselves. So people stop listening to WBLK as if it wasn't even there before. And it happened instantly. It's like a nosedive, that was the end of it. I was the guy that was privileged enough to have a recording studio, as you know, Apache Studios, right? Victoria Park and Finch, and we were making music. That's where Beat Factory had their studio. This was actually my house, and at this point in time, my passion made me a little ill, because I was not businesslike enough to think of putting a studio in an office environment. I wanted it in the basement of my house, and it turned out to be pretty cool. But when all those when BLK was at the top of their game, basically, we had opportunity to make radio commercials.
Yeah.
And it was completely legal, but we could use top songs and put them as the bed music underneath the commercials, instrumentals,
Imagine
we got away with that.
Today.
Yeah, it hypes the party way more when you're hearing somebody hyping in events and you're hearing popular songs. Now you have to use generic music. So because of that, I built a relationship with WBLK. And at that point, I was already working at CKLN, and I'd done a little time at Q170, and I studied radio broadcasting at Ryerson. So I actually had a degree in radio broadcasting. So I did what a lot of people were afraid to do. I hit BLK with a proposal. I actually typed it up on my typewriter at that time and printed it and basically proposed a show that is an unselfish nature, because radio broadcasters don't do this. That's the difference between me and a lot of other broadcasters that were there and that are still there now. I'm a totally unselfish guy, and I like to promote local talent. And instead of having a show that was about me, the Advanced Remix would feature Toronto's best DJs doing master mixes, or what you might call mashups. But we had the ADAT at the time, or multi-track recording devices, and the whole key was for a DJ to come in and have a mix in mind that would be like, you know, a master mix where you only hear sections of each song, yet it's got to flow and it's got to tell a story, make a point. And it was mostly R&B and hip hop. And that's how I met Chris Nice, because when you came into the studio, honest to God, one of the smoothest mixes, imaginative, good taste in music. And I got to work with all of Toronto's best DJs because we got a lot of good talent here.
Yeah, talent.
And I was the engineer, so I slaved. Most people get it's about money, but I'm here saying creativity. Let's get this show on the map. And so we made, how long was each mix? Like 20 minutes or so? I forget exactly.
Yeah,
But it was a 2-hour show. There'd be 6
different segments.
DJs on each show, so that's 20, 20, 20, or 18, 18,
Something like that. We all had a like a hot spot.
Yeah.
A certain section.
Yeah.
Yeah, those were
kind of
good
cool.
times.
Yeah.
Those are good times.
And we would have to record it on a big reel-to-reel recorder and then send it by courier, at least on the Friday, so it got there in time for the Saturday. And then they would play the recording, and it would sound like it's a live show, not anything that was pre-recorded. But that was a challenge all by itself.
But you know what was
cool? In the digital era at all.
But you know what was real cool? The time slot was 8 to 10.
No, wasn't it 10 to 12? I think it was 10 to 12, no?
I thought it was, yeah, you're right. It might have been 10 to 12. What was cool is, anytime I was spinning at a spot, like I used to play at this club called Vertigo back in the day.
Vertigo.
Friday and Saturday night, we got Jonathan Shaw. And I remember people would come up like, yo, I just finished listening to your mix. So that was cool. On the way to the club, they're listening to my mix and they're coming into the club. And you used to catch some people like, what are you doing here? You know what I mean? Because I was just listening to you on the radio, but that was a movement, man. Like that was I was telling you earlier, years later, people are still telling me like what that meant to them. Certain DJs, like they started DJing because of that. And, you know, I had a funny situation once with a popular DJ. I was walking down, remember Richmond Street? Popular Street here in Toronto. And I heard, oh my God, Chris Nice. And and it was because of, you know, some of my mixes, but the Advanced Remix also, and he was with his boys, and he went on his knees and he started doing and I was like, I didn't know what that, I was like, what the? I was with somebody and I was like, yo, but you don't think people are paying attention until moments like that.
Yeah, you never know where music goes. And WBLK as an American radio station, they still even today sound different in terms of how they're EQ'd and how their music sounds, because it's more bassy and more full than Canadian radio stations are.
Yeah, that's true.
They have a little edge, and we don't know where it comes from, but
that's true.
Black music sounds really good in WBLK.
Yeah.
So, you know, big up Flow still is Canadian, but they still got a ways to go in terms of maturing into what we really can identify with. So right now, you know, we got to give people some time to adjust, so I ain't got to come down too hard at Flow. But honestly, I should have been working there. I should have been program director. You know, you guys all dissed me. That was one part of my career that was not complete. Took me off the map. One time I pissed off Denim Jolly. You know, he won.
That was the owner of Flow.
Owner of Flow. So I got my Urban Music Awards night that he did, and he was in the audience. And I'm outspoken. I get in trouble. So when I'm on the mic, the last thing I said in my acceptance speech was, and tell Flow that they should play more reggae on the radio station. Everyone clapped and stuff.
Wow.
And Jolly was embarrassed. I didn't mean to embarrass him, but after that, like, Man Like Specs, who was like, I hear they're going to ban you from the radio forever. Like, you know? So I've been on the radio since I went to Chin, but multi-language radio has no loyalty. That's that's something that black radio can never survive on radio like that. I think Dr. J has a show on Chin, but no, on Chin. So Chin is where you basically have 2-hour slots, but the language changes every 2 hours. So it's completely but it's a Canadian Toronto radio station.
That's interesting.
So I tried something. Denise Jones was the architect of all that, where, you know, I felt like there's very little loyalty there. People don't want to have to suffer to listen now. They want a full-time experience they deserve in Toronto as a big market to be able to turn on their radio and hear music that is automatically, you know, appealing and enticing. Yeah. But you're going to hear Portuguese, you're going to hear Brazilian, you know, like everything except black music for 2 hours out of the entire week's time slot. So Chin didn't do it for me. So since then, I'm like, do my own thing, not radio. You know, I mean, I enjoyed the experience. So
I'm gone now, but when even before I moved, the city was just different. But I'll be okay. It was just
but a whole new generation was born. You know, like things keep
switching up.
Yeah, like transforming, I call it. But it's transitioning. So we're getting older, and our experience gives us some entitlement as to what we feel is good music. But if you have a son or daughter and you're having a conversation with them, or you're in the car and, you know, music's in the car and stuff like that, what right do you have to tell them that their music is good music? And it's really about you being young and free. This is how music works, and I figured this out. Okay, before you start working and becoming an adult and having adult responsibilities, music is like blood inside of you. It's essential for your being, and you don't criticize it like when you get older and you have to work and it's more mechanical and structural for you. So when you flash back to the music of your life, and you'll see this happen when you get older, the music you'll always remember is the music that you grew up and listening from the time that you were 10 until you were like 15. That's your old school right there. Because after that, you probably started working and music wasn't free and natural, but music defined me when I was that age. Like it was all about, I was in love with music. I feared when I heard the countdowns that the radio stations did at the end of the year, the top 100, and I'd be writing them out and printing them out on paper. I'm like, there's no way next year's music is going to be as good as this. I was worried because I thought music was so beautiful. So anyway,
you go back memories of that when we used to like write down the hits. You hear certain hits. Remember Michael Williams?
Of course.
He was in Montreal when I was a kid. So he was doing radio in Montreal. So in Montreal we had no urban radio, no black radio.
I heard about it.
So every Saturday for his show, me and my boys would tune in and we write down, and then we go to this record store. And this record store used to have we got to Bobby Davis. So I have this guy, Bobby D, who used to run a Shore record pool in New York. And that's how, in high school, we got a lot of our music. Every week they put out a Shore list, record pool list, and we basically write down, like look at the list and write down and ask them for the songs. And that's how we got the songs.
Cool.
But look at how things change. Like nowadays with MP3s, like that's the part of it that I miss, that hands-on, that searching. You know, it meant more to you because you had to really search for the track, at least as a DJ. Speaking as a DJ, I miss those days.
Yeah, that's when your son says to you, Daddy, you're old.
Yep.
You know? Like,
who has time to read the credits?
Yeah, like, they want immediate gratification with music, and those are beautiful times for us.
Yeah.
You know, but it was our time. And now, you know, I'm over 60 now, you know, I'm very satisfied with what I've done musically, but I have to kind of accept the fact that maybe I don't know everything about music, or maybe I don't have the right to define what is great music, even though it's in my own essence, because they have a right to do that based on their own perspectives and livelihoods and outlook. Because again, music kind of defines you. When you get older and you listen to music from the youth, you actually have feelings. It's impossible for you to have now, because music, it becomes color instead of black and white. And I know it kind of sounds weird what I'm saying, but the greatest thing about music is when it is the music of your life and you hear it, you actually feel some of the emotions that you felt back then.
Yeah.
You know, you feel, if you were in love with somebody and, you know, Stairway to Heaven was your jam or whatever, when you hear that song, you go right back there and you remember that person. So
That's so true.
it's a healing, really.
It's a connection.
Yeah.
Speaking of connection, also,
Mhm.
this brother's studio. This is before everybody had their studio in their house. So his studio is where I would say 95% of the radio ads for parties and whatnot came out of his studio. So his studio was like a meeting place.
Yeah.
Remember that? There was a meeting place. If you were a known DJ back in the days, you came to his studio.
And I keep being surprised by that. Like, as an entrepreneur, why didn't other people open up their studios back then to accommodate the demand that was there?
It's a good question.
You know what I mean?
Great question.
I became an engineer on the fly, and I get credit for being one of the first hip hop studios in Toronto as well. And a lot of Toronto's hip hop history was made by Beat Factory Studios, who were in Pickering. And I'm the one that convinced Ivan Berry to move and ship to Toronto, where it's more central. And that way we can have two studios in the basement at the same time. And that's where they made their first album, which sold, 500,000 copies?
Right.
So I'm pretty proud of that. But they didn't give me a plaque for my friggin' wall. That's
So I mean, if you listen
yeah.
and get a plaque ready.
I was okay. He'll never give me that plaque. But, DreamWorks should have made some kind of effort to give me that plaque. But it doesn't matter.
It's never too late.
Now,
It's never too late.
get a lot of credit for people getting older now and recognizing what they had, because they can never have that again. What we went through, and I'm older than you, so I went through stuff before you. When Rapper's Delight came out in '79, I was rapping in front of Mary. The only one that was doing that at the time? No, but I lived that. When that came out and how it impacted and switched up the whole scene,
Yeah.
because disco had just been assassinated. Black Pride was at a low in 1978, 1979, because disco had been running things for 4 or 5 years. All that shit that people think they don't understand the history of music. I experienced a lot of it, okay? I was playing in disco clubs before I was a good DJ. The reason I put out a record in 1980 called Breakdown was because this disco DJ worked at a club called TG's in Mississauga, and he was a white guy who had to play Rapper's Delight when before that all he'd been playing was disco, but rap had just been born and he saw it was working with white people, right?
Okay.
And
So,
he had to put out a record, so I was the only black guy that he knew. And he says, Ron, you can rap, let's make a record, and I'm gonna bring you to the studio. He said, Ron, you can rap, I'm gonna make a record, let's bring you in the studio. So his studio was a living room just like this with a cassette recorder and a microphone, and we used Curtis Blow, the breaks, the instrumental on the other side.
Mhm.
And I'm 19 years old, and who could rap? He could pass it. Curtis, well, the name is Ronnie Yo, and I sounded shit as a rapper. And my voice was squeaky, but the man made history.
Wow.
When people look back to some of the first records that were ever made in Canada, it's hard to find anything that comes before 1980. So those people who are real old school in Toronto, if you're one of these people watching this right now, I'm telling you, those were some beautiful times being around in 1979, 1980, and the formation of rap. Please make sure and tell people that there's a difference between a rap scene and a hip hop scene, because the rap scene was actually the transition period where the urban music that was friendly to the R&B scene kind of thing became kind of merged with a rap scene, and then that rap scene 4 or 5 years later got its own definition as a hip hop scene.
Yeah.
But before that, people were just rapping, not knowing the future, doing it for passion, doing it for love. You know what I'm saying?
That's what always starts.
But disco, this is what I say to people: before disco died and got assassinated, it laid an egg, and what was hatched from that egg? Rap. And rap turned into hip hop, and hip hop took all of the ingredients via sampling of soul music, funk music, gospel music, pop music, and it became this new thing because it ingrained all of those different fibers of great music that's been made in the history of music and made a beautiful thing out of it. Black people are fucking geniuses. We don't get enough credit. This business became a multi-billion dollar industry.
Because of us.
And because of us.
Because of us.
We
Because of the
can
passion.
stake a little bit in all of that.
Mhm.
But my man here again, one of the smoothest DJs I've ever seen. I didn't know you had soca in you. Yeah, I thought there's two Chris Nice when I first heard you promote that sort of stuff, and I'm like, how can you do it all like that? You can kind of. That's an old school DJ. There used to be only one DJ in those old school parties.
Mhm.
Now you have to hire 5 to draw people.
Yeah.
You know, starting from scratch. You know,
Remember
5
those days?
DJs.
Remember those days? You
Those
come in
old school days, one
for
DJ.
6 hours. It used to be from 9 to 3 a.m. One DJ. And he might have an MC. And that was it. A buddy of mine, older DJ, he said, he told somebody, that a DJ that the other day, and the guy lost his mind. The guy was like, how do you play for 5-6 hours? That's crazy. You're supposed to have at least 3-4 DJs. That's how much times change. You don't see any place with this one.
Let's talk about this story, okay? Definition of old school, okay? I'm gonna tell you in a little rhyme right now, okay? You were just a baby sitting in your mommy's lap, those great golden years, you're not, man, they're never coming back. Today you love hip hop, yesterday was trap. In 1983, I was promoting rap. Back in the old school days, we used just one DJ, funk soul music play, a little bit of reggae, only 2 turntables, one MC on the line. See a girl you like, you have to move your body. Smiling faces, facing spaces, shoes with no laces. You remember all the places? Beats move the crowd, the speakers playing loud, cool gang celebrating. We're bounce, rock, roller skating, soul music, then funk after disco came rap. That music turned to hip hop, then hip hop got trap. We're dancing in the streets, Latinos, Puerto Ricans, blacks, and the golden years of rap. Man, they're never coming back. Let's celebrate old school. I didn't know I better stop, man. I'm totally in this. I tell you.
Getting everything tonight.
Yeah.
Getting
A
everything.
little bit of this, a little bit of that.
But you know what? I gotta jump on also. You were, when I said in the intro, and I meant that too, you were House of Blues before House of Blues. And the reason, but here's why, I gotta give you your props for that because I was always an entrepreneur. My goal was to, I started doing concerts in 98. Big up Gary T. I did my first concert. I was the first to bring out with Gary
Gary T. Montreal.
in Montreal. I went to high school.
Yeah, I just spoke to him last week.
Oh.
Yeah, Gary T.
I went to high school with him, but we bought Casey and JoJo. Like first time in
yeah.
Canada. My goal was to be the Live Nation of today.
Really?
But I don't think people had that vision. So along came House of Blues eventually, which turned into Live Nation. I ended up working with House of Blues, and then we became Live Nation. But the props I give you is you were doing all of that before. So what was your first concert, and what was the concert that you'll never forget?
Well, the first concert was probably Monster Jam.
Mhm.
And that's a local concert, but we had this DJ, Jazzy J from New York, and
What year?
and this probably 83.
83.
Still haven't fired. If I'm wrong, then it's 84, but I believe it's 83.
Wow.
And that guy actually drove by himself from New York
So
to
you
Toronto,
serious?
and we were at the breakdance theater in Regent Park. I didn't even know Regent Park was a Batman area. And Jonathan Gross would come along later, another promoter, Jewish white guy who just loved rap music. He would bring a few groups here as well, and then stop a little bit after that. I kept going, but that first concert I did with a partner named Rob. I think you know Rob always worked my security, and we kind of gambled on our intuition because at that time Sunshine Sound was running the place along with, the TKOs and a few other big set of kilowatts and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So Monster Jam was like a bunch of local sound systems in one place, just like
Okay.
a battle, except it's not a battle anymore.
So it was no artist. It was more just sound system.
Sound systems
Oh, okay.
started that way. Later on, Monster Jam would involve artists as well.
Okay.
So after that, I remember I started bringing different groups one by one, and
Big Daddy Kane.
Biz Markie,
Jeez.
Big Daddy Kane, Rakim and Eric Reed, Public Enemy. I Ice-T, Ice Cube,
That I remember.
Mantronics, DJ Cheese, EPMD, Run DMC. The list goes on and on. You can check djronnelson.com. That's my website, and there's a whole section that pretty well like an archive of most of the stuff that I've done. But that was a whole chapter of my life. What happened basically is I started doing the radio station, the Fantastic Voyage program on CKLN, and that was 1983 to 1983. I forget till maybe 90 or something, but I started in 83, and it became the first hip hop show. Even though it started as a funk show, it became the first hip hop show in Canada, basically.
You know, that's how I got to, sorry to cut you, you know, that's how I got to know. I used to come down for basketball tournaments.
Really?
And I was like, who's this Ron Nelson guy?
Yeah.
Not to realize that years later, I would end up in Toronto, we end up working together. But that's how I hear of you when I come down for tournaments in the city.
Yeah, the only reason people heard of me anyway is because I got on the radio. I wasn't anybody in the scene before that. I was one of those guys watching Sunshine and wishing I had 5 minutes on those trenches, but they would never give anybody a chance. So radio kind of popularized me. And the audience that were listening, though, they didn't have a promoter that was honest, bringing concerts. And I became that guy.
That's amazing.
They could find me and come to my house and attack me if I didn't do things right. Yeah, I care about my life and my reputation. So I always did things honest, except for the very last show. And that's when I worked with somebody else's money, and they go to show on the Friday night. Artists on the stage go, hey, the promoter ain't paying us our money, so we're out there. And I had to run from that thing. All hell didn't break out, but I quit after that. That's why I stopped doing concerts. It was the first time I'd ever failed to deliver on any shows, and I was so down on myself. I didn't have anybody there motivating me, cheering me on, saying what you're doing is important, so you can't stop. I just felt like shit because I've never, to that point, disappointed. I never had one show that didn't happen because of any fuckery, you know what I mean? So I felt it here, and.
But yeah, look at the same time though, you never know who you inspired. Because somebody like me comes along in 1998 now, and I'm doing my first concert ever because of my pops first. Because I was wanting to surpass my father because he was a DJ.
Oh, yeah.
But he was just a DJ. I wanted to take it to the next level. So when I did that concert that day, it was emotional for me because that day I passed my father. But people like you, it told me you can do it. Like somebody could do something major in Canada and they can look like me.
Promoters are a rare breed though, because a promoter is a gambler. You know, you're playing with thousands of dollars, and if you have responsibilities and you have a woman in your life and a family, children, you need to be careful when you use your own money. That's what differentiated me from everybody else during my era of promotions, is that you couldn't stop me. I didn't want anything else other than this thing that I sought after, which is to please people by giving them what they want. And instead of buying, building myself with a career, I became this promotional gangster. So not gangster, because the difference between me and all the other promoters was my money was clean. I would use my own money, lose it sometimes, gamble it. I remember after the Run DMC tour at Varsity Arena, I lost I don't know, 10,000, which was pretty good, an affordable loss. And then 2 weeks later, I played at a concert hall under my own name, and I made back that money.
Wow.
And then here's how naive you think we're advanced in terms of black men being able to manage their money. This is why we need women in our lives. I'm telling you, I had gotten a loan via my mom and dad, who loves me still to this day very much. And I said, I want to do this concert. I want to be the first promoter to bring an official rap concert tour to Canada. Nobody's ever done it. And Live Nation's around the corner, right? CPR's around the corner. There's, other people are starting to do stuff.
Yeah.
So that package was like $90,000 or something. And actually, we got a $75,000 loan from the bank. So I thought, because a month later, I had all the money back. I had it in cash. I went to the bank and I said, here's the money back, thank you very much. And the guy, the board manager beside him, they pushed the money back and said, you don't want this. It's your money. And I go, huh? He said, it's a mortgage on a loan. You can do whatever you want with that money.
Wow.
And I didn't understand money. I thought I understood money at that time. And I walked out of there saying, wow, what can I do with this money? And that's when I bought my house. I had no job, no bank account. I was on the streets basically promoting, but because I had $40,000 cash, my real estate agent's like, his name was Art, he's like, don't worry, you're gonna get your house. As long as you have that $40,000 cash. And then I had a little more money left over, so that's when I bought my recording studio. I probably spent $100,000 on the recording.
So that was Apache.
Time, Apache.
Okay.
So I put some of that
In the history of Apache.
studio. And the house was the studio, and people like DJ X rented one room. It's like a rooming house, you know, and D Shan, rapper D Shan, rented that room. She's living with Cyclone 457, another DJ. Nancy, X's girlfriend, lived in the third room, and that's the air conditioner behind those drapes, and she sold it to me, so it's still going from 1989,
Wow.
1990, 1991
Wow,
at this time.
It's,
And then I had the master bedroom. And those people would have to tolerate all that noise coming from the studio in the basement.
Mhm.
So all that boom, 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 you know,
Wow.
they're watching TV and they're living their lives, but it was an adventure, that whole Apache. And then when Beat Factory moved in, we'd get to witness those guys like fighting each other over money and stuff like that. We'd hear all the arguments. We'd hear Maximum 60 make some dope beats and dope productions. Like you're in here and there's one studio banging beats there and another studio banging. You're in the epiphany of hip hop. I didn't know this was such a beautiful thing at the time. Afterwards, people tell me, yo, man, that was crazy.
You,
You know?
passion, all mixed up.
Yeah. I was actually offered a publishing deal by EMI Records at one point for $100,000, and I was so busy I did not.
Wow.
And I was managing 5 groups. I was too busy doing concerts. And then I started teaching at York University down the line, and that's another reason why I never sought after commercial radio. I don't think I could have done both at the same time. And York University was 11 years of my life, and it was the first hip hop radio show.
You did it for 11 years. Wow.
For 11 years, it was the first hip hop course.
I remember that.
In Canada, that was a true hip hop course, and I got to do like 5 other courses, 500 students per year. Every summer, I'm at the park under a tree, marking journals that are like 100. It was so hard to do all that stuff. But I meet those students all the time now, and they're like, Ron, that was the best course I ever had, and blase, blase, blase. Like, people really
11 years.
Yeah, it could have been longer, but you know, politics and politics. So I was kind of squeezed out of there, and the next guy who took over, his name is Ron as well, and he's a trombone player, and I used to be a trombone player. And we're all good.
Mhm.
Me and Ron worked together at some point in time. But then again, I was in another chapter of my life.
Wow. This is history right here. But what's your opinion on today's, on the industry in Toronto, Canada today? Because I have my opinion. So what's your opinion on today's industry? Do you think we went anywhere as a community, or?
I think Drake and The Weeknd are great artists. If you have worked with Justin, if Puffy really got in there and messed them up. And I think that we have a very case of cock blocking, because those artists are hogging up all the Canadian artists' airplay, where in terms of governance, Canada has had a system where you have to pay 33% Canadian artists.
Yeah.
Before that, everybody got played because there wasn't any good Canadian artists. But those guys came along, and they keep playing the same Canadian artists over and over again. So it's been good for a very select group of artists, but they're in the bottleneck, they're the tip. All the other Canadian artists that used to be empowered by radio backing them and people playing stuff with repetition so you could start singing the songs and going to their concerts, that's all gone right now. So it's a struggle to find the next one in Canada. And in the meantime, it's like in America, the rich gets richer, Drake gets richer, you know. Who's that guy that went in prison for shooting that girl in the foot?
Tory Lane.
Tory Lane. I mean, that's another one gone. He was in the fast lane, you know. So who's next? R&B. The Weeknd's gonna scrap the whole Weeknd name and start something new. I think Canada has to learn loyalty and learn how to support and build and be unselfish. And even though radio's not passe anymore, because we're in an age of instant gratification. I think it still helps struggle if you admit that there is a struggle.
There's a struggle.
But it's every man for himself here.
Yeah.
You know, there's no love there's no brotherhood. America has that, but there's something about being back in America that's very different than being back in Canada. We have no sense of soul here.
That's
And
true.
you live in America,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And you lived in Canada, so
Yeah.
you're probably well scripted and
Yeah. There's a connection.
you don't have to agree with what I'm saying.
No, but you're right. What I never liked is in order to make it, they respect you more if you leave and go over there and make it over there.
Absolutely.
And then you can come back now and you're somebody, but you're the same talent. There's nothing different. I'm the same guy I was here. But now they give you respect once you cross that imaginary line.
And don't think you said anything unique. I've been hearing the same thing for 20, 30
Oh,
years now.
Yeah.
And nothing's changed. Like, how are we going to make a change? We're not going to be around when it changes.
Yeah.
It's going to take more decades because to change somebody's habits is not easy to retrain people, reprogram people in their ways. We need to have a conversation with it. I think the CRTC needs to relook at how radio is structured and have a vision that fits the present instead of fitting the past. And there needs to be more shows on the radio that promotes Canadian music and a Canadian identity, because really we have no identity.
Yeah.
Drake is not Canada, you know, he might be great, but we need more of a sound. Everyone struggles. What's a Canadian sound? Can you tell me?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knows.
I used to hear that a lot when I traveled to the States. A lot. I used to get, why do you guys always try to sound like us? I used to get that a lot. You guys always try to sound like us. Like, I used to be like, who are you guys?
That was the case in the beginning. It was the case, but I think we've got our own sound now.
But that's why in a way I like some of our, I used to knock my kids on it, but I like some of that slang that the world is now picking up.
Yeah.
The world is now picking up a lot of our slang from Toronto. A bit of England dabbled in there, but that to me was us creating our own identity. And I think now the world's picking it up. Like they're like, yo, the Toronto guys talk like this, you know, and certain things we say in Toronto. I give us props for that, but we still have a lot of work.
Yeah,
A lot of work.
and again, you're coming from a black point of view. Toronto's a multicultural melting pot. Toronto's changing. I don't know if you've noticed it, but there are a lot of different colors here now. A lot of different cultures, more than before. And, it's reshaping the stereotypical image of what the Canadian. There's less white people now. There's more colored people, basically, and more brown people. You know?
Brown people for sure.
And they're still Canadians.
Mm.
They're just multiplying faster than Caucasian people.
Yeah, I see it when I come back. When I'm in the airport now, I get off the plane, I'm like, what?
And people are seeing this from a racist point of view, and when you read the memes and you look at the media, there's somebody that drove around a truck that says, "Is this Canada?" And it showed basically a bunch of ethnic people that are Canadians celebrating in a big, large number, and they're basically not liking what's going on. They feel to some extent it's intrusive or an invasion of what is supposed to be Canadian, but nothing stays the same, you know what I mean? So,
And Toronto, especially, was always a melting pot.
and it's still a land of opportunity. I love being against the odds and being black in Canada, because there's a lot of lazy people here who feel entitled, and we can come along and kick their ass because we hungrier. We want it more. We have this drive, you know, we have this
That's
drive to do greatness.
That-
Yeah. So
That's true.
that's in your DNA, black people, whether you know it or not. It is. It's in your DNA. You just gotta kind of get it out.
Yeah.
You know.
I believe it or not, that's what got me to Miami. What attracted me to South Florida is it reminded me so much of Toronto, where it was a melting pot. You have so much Caribbean people from all these different islands. It attracted me. I'd go and visit, and I was like, you know what? This feels like Toronto, minus the winter and the high taxes. You know, it reminded me a lot of Toronto.
Next to Toronto, the most beautiful women in the world are in Miami. That's what I can tell you. Maybe not in the world. Let's say North America.
North
I've been
America.
around enough. Yeah,
North
but in North
America.
America, Miami's got it going on. And I'm giving credit for that. Yeah.
I mean, I agree, but man, if you ever step foot in DC, you might be on your knees proposing at least 10, 20 times before you drive up.
Okay, as long as I don't get shot by those.
We go to DC, Chocolate City, and Atlanta. The ATLs, not too shabby either. Not too shabby.
Black people still be driving expensive cars in Atlanta like crazy, right? That's what we used to say about Atlanta. That's the first place where black people became corporate and earned more money than everywhere else in North America. I never see it with my own eyes. Is that true?
Well, the last time I was in Atlanta, one thing I would say, it inspires you. Because me at the time living in Toronto, it showed you a different life that black folks could be living. I have a cousin that played in the NFL, and I stayed with him, and his area blew my mind, and every other house was black folks.
So they're not going to pull a black man over for driving an expensive car.
Well, listen, I'm not going to say all that. I didn't live there.
Yeah, well, if that's the norm, you know, if everybody's doing well, and
but it felt like us being successful.
Like,
so we could.
It's a future.
Yeah.
It's a future. He's talking about the future. Believe in yourself, okay?
Whatever you
You're the rocks on the wall. Come on.
Yeah. Well, I gotta ask you this: how you handling social media?
I love social media.
You enjoy it?
Look,
Okay.
social media enables you to do multimedia. If you like audio and you like video and you like text and you like programming and you like influencing. So DJRonNelson.com on Instagram, that's where I spend most of my time doing stuff. But I like to write. You know, I'm a writer, and I like telling stories, and people seem to be interested in their history now more than they ever done before. So for me, it fits my brand, right?
Which is a good thing.
It gives me a release too, because I need to kind of outlet sometimes. But somebody's trying to protect something, right? If they're censoring what you politically should be allowed to say, I don't look at it as hate speech. I look at it as really is dangerous like that. But I don't want to become too obsessed with that. Anyway, we're not going to lose the point. I'm just saying that I love social media, but I'm a little disappointed that there's such a blatant level of censorship that's going on with today's social media now.
Yeah.
Who owns it, I guess? I don't know who's running it. But somebody out there is basically trying to do the same thing they've done with CNN and CBC and all those other networks. They're not hearing the truth anymore.
Right.
And the reporters have all signed off on keeping their jobs by knowing that they're not allowed to tell the truth. Yet you can still be a reporter, and it's a sad state of the world. You know, when you get older, you start caring about things. We could be talking about music, but that was a little politics.
Now, when we were younger, some of us have older souls, so some of us was passionate about that also. Because I know back then we were passionate about things like that. Also, it's just most people your age group around you weren't, so you know who to have certain conversations with. You know what I mean?
No, I mean.
Yeah. If you were to walk away from the entertainment business today, what would be your fondest memory that you would take with you? That memory that you will never forget that moment in your decades in this business.
That's a good question. One that I will never forget, though. Okay. So Salt-N-Pepa had this song called Push It. I brought them up, brought Heavy D and the Boys up at the same time, and MC Shan in one concert. And believe it or not, we were so stingy as promoters that to save a few dollars off the airfare back in those days, we would fly to artists to Buffalo, pick them up in Buffalo, drive them into Toronto in the car. You know, it would take a whole team to do this, but this became a norm. Just to save a few dollars, because, you know, we need to save every concert for $10, $15. I couldn't charge the kind of money you're charging now. And I remember that I did something innocently, which was I flew Heavy D and the Boys, because they're bigger in my eyes, direct to Toronto. And when Salt-N-Pepa found out about this, I was the one who had to drive them back to Buffalo. And they were if I had nails, I would have been like, leave it right now. They had no love for me. Even though they rocked the house and stuff like that, they felt so disrespected. They're like, why do you have to pay to Buffalo? So that was probably a shared memory with another situation where I basically and this is something that you guys probably did in your lives as well. I just remember the first time playing on a big sound system. It was like driving a big truck, okay, like a spaceship almost, because the feeling and the experience has lived with me. It was Sunshine Sound System, and you know how rap records were produced back in those days. You know, they have this big snap, and the whole place shakes, and that experience just made me solidified with wanting to continue doing what I'm doing, championing black music and all that stuff, because the feeling you got became certified. I was a DJ and I was born. And I understood the power. You know, what I'm talking about is something a lot of people have never experienced still, they might be DJs. The days of that big, heavy, loud sound system.
Chest cavity was trembling.
But we don't, a lot of people they were born in the clubs. They got their laptops, they become a DJ and they play nightclubs, but they never get to go into a hall or an arena where the people are just hungry for it. The hunger that existed before doesn't exist now because the music is not new. When something is born, people are thirsty to experience it for the first time. Since hip hop has been born, but I guess we can say it was Afrobeats is the only thing that's come after. You know, there's hip hop, dancehall, Afrobeats, but there's not been much in terms of you can say a completely new form of music's been discovered. So that's my memories, just being that naive kid who for the first time kind of got a chance to drive the spaceship, to drive the truck, and how it just made my life happy afterwards.
Great time.
You realize the power of the music, the power of the DJ in that moment.
Yeah.
You know? So if you haven't experienced it as a DJ, try it, and then you can relate to what I'm saying. People might say, well, what I'm talking about, but wait, go on one of them big sound system and play some.
Nothing like it, man.
Yeah.
You literally felt like your chest was gonna cave in.
Yeah, and when you're outside, you can literally hear the boom, boom, boom through the concrete walls. You know, it makes you want to go outside. Like seriously, it's black music, a beautiful thing, man. So keep championing it. I keep looking for people who will be reborn with the passion I had to not put money first, but to put your dreams first. Okay, you can make them come true if you really believe in doing something that you feel an intuition to do because you're qualified to do it. Like I said, it's in your DNA. So we need more people stepping up and gambling. As bad as it is to be a promoter gambling, at least you ain't in Vegas throwing away the money. You can be satisfied with the fact that you tried. Sometimes you could win just by trying. Okay, you don't want to be dying trying, but at least you can say you did something. You try to make a difference. You know, you gambled with your own soul, kind of with your own dreams, with your own ideas, with your own kind of hunches. And sometimes those gambles work out. And don't be afraid to consult either. Like talk to people who are experts in the industry before you make your move and act ignorantly. You'd be surprised how many people want to help you by giving you good advice. So you know this stuff. I'm just talking to the camera so that
the younger
people listening be inspired. The difference again with me is I use my own money, didn't wait on nothing, no sponsorship, no nothing. Today there is sponsor money out there. Go out and get some of it, all right? My time there really wasn't. It was hard to get money. I remember one time Pepsi became a sponsor of Monster Jam. They gave me like 50 cases of Pepsi, and they left it on the airport on a skid.
What?
And then they said, "Oh, they had 24 hours to get it." I didn't. I ended up leaving it there. Like, well, thanks a lot, you know. But today you can get thousands of dollars from sponsors. So just put the pen is mightier than the sword. If you use ChatGPT and put a nice proposal together. You can get money. If you're a member of the Toronto Arts Council, you know, you can have access to funds and that you won't see commercially, not available to the regular public. So,
and if you're in America, the same is available in America. There's a lot of different sponsors you can get. But you see, but this is why I love this, because nothing starts from like today. There's a history, there's roots, and that's why, Ron, I had to do this interview face to face. I could have hit you up and we could do it online, but I was like, there's so much in my past that people like you were responsible for. I said, I told my brother, I was like, I have to come and shake his hand. I gotta meet Ron face to face because I don't forget. We all came from something.
I appreciate the love because my man is genuine and sincere down to earth, and he recognizes his history. You know what I mean? And so I'm very
Amazing.
humbled and flattered and thankful to get this exposure. Like I said, I'm still doing my thing because I love this. I'm married to it. It defines who you are. So music has defined me. You know what I mean? And I have no regrets. I love what I'm doing, and I just want more people to get involved so we can uplift things and make
People have to know the
better.
history. People have to know the history. That this isn't just Toronto. This is Canada. So people need to know the history of where you are now. It came off the backs of people that was working hard, but they were passionate. And you're where you are today because of that.
Work hard, man.
Yeah.
Outwork people
Yeah.
and get you results.
So I appreciate this. I appreciate
No
you.
worries,
Never
sir.
forget, Ron.
Never forget either, man.
And I'm glad you're a part of
I
this.
love you, DJ stuff, man.
Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
man.
A lot of time in the basement.
No,
A lot of time in the
yeah,
basement.
but you know, with other people, I have to punch edit a lot. With you, wow, I'm like this, just watching.
Nice.
So you did that shit live. I
Bye.
didn't come down to punching. So
Thanks. No,
respect
appreciate
for
it.
that.
Appreciate it.
All right.
So we'll catch you guys on the next episode. And once again, this is the legend, Canada. I'm not going to say Toronto. Canada's legend, do your history, Mr. Ron Nelson.
DJ Ron Nelson, bringing up Limers Corner.